Nanaya Idu. I'm a 22-year-old recent politics and French graduate living in East London. I love poetry, love writing, write blogs, wellness guides, and kind of have a love-hate relationship with politics and engaging in political discourse in general, but obviously not enough to just stay away because I made this podcast, the Much Ado About Nothing podcast. It's I was gonna say relatively new, but it's not relatively new. It's a baby. It's fresh. It's episode 2. Welcome. So, since it's new, it's kind of in the I'm trying to figure out what direction I'm gonna take it in stage. But at the moment, the structure is I'm gonna give you a bit of a recap of what I've been up to in the week, and gonna read a comment that I came across on Instagram or wherever I've come across it. If it's like interesting, insightful, or just weird or bizarre, but like a good conversation starter, I'm gonna bring it out here, and we're gonna discuss. So that's pretty much it. So welcome to the Much Ado About Nothing podcast. Recap time. What have I been up to? Oh, I signed up to this writers program. It's with a mental health charity, and it's usually like on Zoom, like virtual, but they organized a basically in-person meetup, and we got to meet each other, and it was so lovely. Everyone was wonderful, and we got to do like arts and craftsy things. So we was cutting stuff, coloring stuff, introducing ourselves. We had food. They ordered pizza for us. It was so lovely, so wholesome. I don't really go out much or interact with that many people, to be honest. So I was like, yum. I love people. You know what? Social anxiety where it's gone, having a good time. But that's because it was like a different space. Like a lot of the content that we discuss or intend to write and work on are really vulnerable personal stuff. And I feel like if you're someone like me, it's hard to navigate spaces where the discussion points are really surface level and really small talk heavy, but this is not a small talk heavy space though, is it? So it's easy to feel safe and make connections with people. Yeah, and it kind of reminded me of primary school. I think the whole arts and crafty bit really reminded me of primary school. Oh wait, no, preschool. It's like primary school, you're technically still studying stuff. Preschool, not so much, just vibes and good life, vibes and napping. Yeah, that's pretty much preschool, vibes and napping. I also volunteer sometimes at a charity shop, but they have a cafe in there, and I learned how to use the coffee machine. Like when they grind the beans, and then they do that tap thing and do the thing and twisty thing, and then they make the espresso, and then they do the steaming. Yep, I learned how to do all of that. It was really overwhelming initially, I'm not gonna lie. I found it really overwhelming because it's like a lot of little steps in quick succession, and it's not really something I've done before, so it was new and it was overwhelming. And there was a point I was like, why did I ask to be taught it? Because I actually didn't have to learn it. I was just like, this would be cool to know, but in the middle of learning it I was like, why did I put myself in this position? But I take all of that back now, because at the end, I think I kind of got the hang of it. So it was actually like a positive in the long run. Stuck through it, and I sort of know what I'm doing, but obviously I need way more practice to do so confidently. But it was actually quite positive as an experience, and yeah. Oh, I also submitted like a few of my poems for this literary magazine, but they got rejected. Yeah. But good news, I progressed to the next stage of an assessment centre for a job I'm really excited about and hopeful about getting. But I guess we'll see. But fingers crossed. Send some prayers my way. Thank you. Please and thank you. So that's the recap. That's what I've been up to. Well, I guess that's the highlights and the lowlights. Yeah. So let's head on to the comment of the day, the comment of the week. So the comment is by at star.narr, and it reads, "Every human being on earth owes humanity. Posting or sharing won't cost you a single thing." And that comment's actually in response to a comment made by someone else called Abe_H_08. And Abe's comment reads, "Try to remember that celebrities are humans and don't owe anyone anything. Challenge, in brackets, impossible." So yeah, the original comment, I believe, is on a video which appeared to be criticizing Selena Gomez or some other celebrity's response to the violence Palestinian people are being subjected to in Gaza by the Israeli government. And I think some further context which might be helpful to know is, allegedly, the CEO of Rare Beauty, which is a makeup company that Selena either owns or is like the face of. Yeah, the Rare Beauty, the CEO is allegedly basically a really active supporter and funder of the IDF, which is the Israeli army. And I think their name is Scott Friedman. Yeah, so allegedly, Scott Friedman actively supports and funds the IDF. So I guess that kind of makes it a bit more complicated and makes it even more personal. But yeah, based on the question, I think, well, not the question, the comment. Based on the comment, I think the question which is worth asking to just tie this whole episode together is, do we owe humankind anything, and what exactly do we owe each other as humans? And on first impression, I like the question because it kind of feels kind of philosophical. It feels like heavy. It feels like something you'd rather not have to deal with. It gives me ethics vibes. But who knows? We'll see. We'll see where we go with this. So yeah, what do we owe humankind, and do we owe humankind anything? I'd say yes. Yes, we do. It's interesting because I think the answer to this. Okay, so recently I've been kind of thinking about what ties my values and principles together. So I'm left leaning, I'm Christian, I'm really, I would say I'm activisty, not because I'm someone who's actually like really, like I'm not leading an organization, I'm not working in an organization that explicitly works in ways that would be considered activism, but I think what is like most like an accurate description is like a post I came across that said that activism is like a posture, like a moral posture, where something comes up and you're inclined to not just accept things as they are, you're inclined to do what you have to do or can do within that context, to be like, no, I don't co-sign this. I think that's just who I am as a person. So obviously so much is happening in the world that's negative, but there's obviously a few things that in my circle, in my life, come up or like more visible. So when those come up, I'm like, is there a petition I can sign? Yes. Is there something I can share? Yes, I'm sharing. Is there something I can say? Yes. Is there something I can teach about the situation? Yes, I will. I will say, I will speak, or educate people in my life. I'll do what I can, kind of thing. So I think that is a good description of what I mean by I'm an activisty person. But one thing I noticed or realized is, in some circumstances, there are certain people who I would say align with my values, but sometimes I recognize certain language that they use or approaches that really throws me off, because I'm like, this is really violent, or this is really alienating, or this is really controversial, but not controversial in that there's something interesting and positive from this way, but like controversial, this is bad stuff. And I was thinking, what exactly ties my morals together? Like, what stops me from, I guess, going to the dark side when someone who's like maybe far right does something? Like, why wouldn't I be comfortable calling for someone to cause harm to them? Like, what stops me from going that like in that direction when someone I disagree with or someone does something incredibly harmful? What stops me from being like, they deserve to die, or something really dark and horrible like that? And I think it would be human dignity, human respect. I think that's a big pillar in, I guess, my moral compass, ethical compass, whatever. Yeah, I think that's the case. And I think that is a good response and answer to the question of what do we owe each other as humans. I think we owe each other human dignity. I think we owe each other human respect. So according to the website Human Rights Careers, human dignity is the belief that all people hold a special value that's tied solely to their humanity, has nothing to do with their class, race, gender, religion, abilities, or any other factor other than the fact they're human. And I feel like, personally, I think it's impossible to make a case for a person holding intrinsic value without rooting it in religion or spirituality to some degree, like whether it's a case of you believing humans were made in the image of God or you believe that they're a reflection of the divine. I feel like there has to be the idea, the belief, the notion of something bigger in order to think that humans are worth being protected in, like, by considering their life sacred to some degree. That's what I think. But obviously you can identify similar ways of thinking or valuing human life in the secular world, in secular spaces, and it's best, I guess, embodied in human rights and legislation and ethics as a field and all that stuff. But yeah, it's also interesting because I think it's worth thinking about the question, what makes someone human? And that might sound really out of pocket and like, whoa, what does that mean? But historically, we've seen that the criteria for human isn't quite clear cut. Well, even if you might disagree, in practice, maybe if we say that's not true, in practice something else has been the case. Like, even thinking about the relationship between white men and white women historically, the fact that women were the property of white men and they had to fight to be recognized as humans, as equals to men. And obviously the relationship between Black people, African people, and white people historically, and the fact that they were intentionally dehumanized in order for their enslavement and exploitation to be justified. All these demonstrate the fact that it's worth interrogating and contending with the question of humanness and humanity, because when stuff gets dark, we see that failure to define certain things allows certain atrocities to take place. And it's interesting because I think that's why explicitly highlighting the fact that we owe each other as humans human dignity and respect is important. Like, I think that's important because it's easy to treat someone with respect when we think they are deserving of it. But I think, yeah, human dignity is like essentially outside of your personal standards of like what a person should be, whether it's like mentally, their mental and physical capabilities, or their moral and ethical standards. Like, outside of that, even if they don't match up, even if they don't reach it, I still respect you, and I'm gonna extend certain respect to you that I would expect in return as a person as well. Like, how I treat you and the respect I give you is not going to be conditional on whether you meet the standards I have for you as a human. And I think that's incredibly important to explicitly say and put out there and recognize as people. And the importance of this is kind of reflected in the fact that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights exists. Like, it's not a natural thing. It came about because of the importance of not only identifying, recognizing what humanity is and refers to, but like also the importance of explicitly outlining, defining what we deserve to have as humans and what is worth upholding and protecting and defending. And yeah, it's this idea of human dignity that underpins the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and articles such as Article 5, which states no one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, a right which we so blatantly see being violated over and over again by the Israeli government in their treatment of the Palestinian people. But the wonderful thing about human dignity is that in extending it to others, it's also beneficial for us as individuals. Like, we live in very, very divided and divisive times where it's the norm for someone to vilify someone else and like, I feel like to some degree I do that in my life when I'm talking specifically about the Conservative government because of how harmful I believe they have been to the British people and people outside of the UK, such as the Palestinian people, who they continue to fail by failing to call for a ceasefire. And the thing is, it's all well and good being like, oh, this person is bad and they deserve harm to come to them. I'm not saying that that's what I've done, but I'm saying that that tends to be the case. Like when you think about how people who are like pro-life in the US, people who are like against the right to choose, essentially are like they're doing it for the child. But if someone brings up the fact that some women are willing to risk their own lives by going like doing like basically unhealthy, harmful things because they feel like they have no choice and they're like, well, then they deserve to deal with the consequences, even if that means death. And I feel like it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I'm just standing up for my moral principles or position. But obviously, if you're that person and say like in a year, the law changes and you occupy the position of the unfavorable position, and someone's essentially calling for you to be imprisoned for 10 years for saying something contrary to that, it's not going to be good. But the thing is, that's why human dignity and respect is important. Like the fact that you might do something, you might think something, you might believe something that might be harmful or dumb or just not something that the majority in whatever society you're living in believe in. But in spite of that, you still deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. I think, yeah, that's essentially what human dignity, human respect refers to and talks about. And I think that's the core of what we owe to each other. And yeah, it's important because even when thinking about the situation in the UK, it's kind of obvious that we're going in a really harmful, scary direction. When we think about how in political discourse, just everyday people, how they speak about migrants, illegal migrants, like such dehumanizing and vile language is being used to speak about these people, including refugees as well. It's really scary. And unfortunately, at one point, maybe like post war, when it was beneficial for migrants to come to the country, I'm guessing the language would have been different to some degree, or maybe not. I haven't done research about this to confidently say so. But now that it's politically beneficial to be divisive and scapegoat, use migrants as a scapegoat, they're using different language. But that's why even if you're someone who's like migration is getting to such bad levels, whatever, even if you're that kind of person, you should still recognize the importance of human dignity and respect and call out and challenge when certain language, certain decisions are being made that so clearly go against it and violate the rights that have been outlined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But yeah, even beyond our ethical duties, we rely on each other as humans. Like we rely on each other materially. And acknowledging this and acting accordingly is arguably an extension of our ethical duty of treating others with dignity and respect, especially when living in the globalized world where our food, our clothes, music, and so many products are being made all around the world by other people. Like, also, as humans, we have an innate biologically driven need and ability to develop and form interpersonal connections, and these bonds are essential and like an essential part of the human experience. So it's like we can't just overlook the fact that we need and rely on each other. And yeah, even when you think about health, for example, when you think about health, the medical field, whether it's like like herbal medicine, like a lot of information we know has been passed down to us, and it's the product of the labor and experiences of others, and the fact that they chose to archive and pass this information on. We're beneficiaries of that. So yes, we do owe fellow human beings something, and I feel like the example of health and passing on information is an extension and a reflection of human dignity, the knowing that I would want this, so I'm gonna do this for another person, because as humans we're vulnerable to diseases. So keeping this information and passing it on to people I love and passing this on to people I don't know and will never know and will never meet. I think that's something that's so incredibly important and unfortunately increasingly missing in our society, because we're so obsessed with maximizing profit and the idea of just doing something from a place of duty rather than a place of being profit motivated is like increasingly dropping. Like, people are so selfish now. It's funny because obviously I'm part of this generation. I'm not like 60 plus or anything. And it's like cliche to be like these kids, these new generations, and then the list of bad negative things. But I think it's true. The idea of duty is just disappearing increasingly, and it's really concerning. And it can't be overstated how much we need each other. I know it's so repetitive, but really let it sink in. We rely on each other so much. So yeah, you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with Selena Gomez? That's a fair question. But yeah, the call to recognize Selena's humanity and not hold her to a higher moral standard is funny, because arguably people are demanding the same thing from her, but just on behalf of the Palestinian people. Like, people just want her to recognize the human dignity of the Palestinian people, because Western media channels are notorious for promoting pro-Zionist narratives. So it's our duty as the normal everyday people to counteract such falsehoods being shared, while highlighting the voices of the Palestinian people who have been described as vermin and a cancer by Israeli government officials. And this is like from The Guardian. Obviously, it's not Selena's duty to advocate for the Palestinian people because she's a celebrity, but I think it's her duty because she's human. And in addition to that, she's someone who's actually incredibly vocal about the importance of mental health and mental health support. Like, literally, the name of her makeup brand, Rare Beauty, in itself is like some sort of like affirmation of our individual uniqueness and our value and our beauty. So it's not out of pocket to, I guess, expect her to approach this with a certain level of virtue when she kind of relies on this image of herself to sell these products. Like, it's a big part of her business identity, her business brand identity, to care about mental health and support mental health, and for portions of the profit to go to supporting people directly. So it's not out of pocket to demand that. But yeah, and the thing is, most of the people who are actually actively educating us and doing so much of the mental, intellectual, and emotional labor are non-celebrities. Like, and also personally, I expect the people in my life to be held to a high moral standard. So why wouldn't I expect the same thing from a celebrity whose whole thing is supporting and standing up for vulnerable people? Like, okay, it's what, like, to be honest, I didn't actually really care too much about Selena and her involvement, like, from a personal position. But I think it's about time that we realize that certain things that we demand from celebrities and from each other are actually the bare minimum. Yes, it's actually the bare minimum. And it's sad to even think that it's something that people can't really recognize. Like, it's sad that we're at a place where we're so noticeably moving away from a society where we respect and embrace the fact that we have duties to each other. Like, it's a virtuous thing to do, but it should be normalized rather than something we can happily opt out of, being like, I have the freedom to do whatever I want to. It's my life, it's my choice, I get to do what I want. Like, I feel like that's the norm at the moment, and it's like, yeah, you are free to do what you want, but it shouldn't be something that you approach gleefully and pridefully, the idea of being free to not do something to support and acknowledge and uphold someone's human dignity and their life, because people are losing their lives. That's the scary and sinister thing about it. While we're here doing intellectual debates and deep dives about it, people are dying. People are dying as we speak, while we're trying to be like, I get to do, I deserve peace, I can't see all this death. Take a break. But people are dying. And yeah, choosing comfort over temporary discomfort or inconvenience when someone's losing their life, that's wild in itself. I'm sorry. And like the person said in their main comment, posting or sharing won't cost you a single thing. It won't. But maybe in Zelina's case, the fact that her CEO literally funds the IDF, maybe it will cost him something. Maybe it will, because it might seem hypocritical, or it's just a case of I would rather not. But yeah, I hope this was an informative little ramble discussion. I'm really curious about what you guys think, because I feel like it's a really heavy. I feel like it must or might seem like saying the obvious, but when you go into the comment section on Instagram, some things that you think are moral, common human decency are some next level. I'd rather not do that, so I just won't do that kind of energy. Like that's the energy I feel like is prevalent now, and it's scary. It's terrifying. It's terrifying to think about how morally bankrupt we are as a society. I know. It's funny because aren't we meant to be the generation where everyone's like, no to homophobia, no to racism, no to xenophobia, no to all the phobias? Yet, because of individualism and consumerism and comfort, people are willing to be like, I have the freedom to just say no to helping you because it interferes with my peace. And I'm choosing peace. Boundaries. Crazy. Pain isn't inherently bad, I tell you. Okay? Suffering isn't inherently bad. Sometimes suffering is good. Like in this case, the suffering we're feeling, having to see all this death, is good. It's good because it's the truth and we're seeing the truth. Truth hurts. What's that Lizzo song? Truth hurts. But would you rather live in truth or numb and surrounded by lies? I guess that's a question for you to answer. But thank you. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Much Ado About Nothing. Like, leave a rating, and share with your friends and family if you enjoyed. If you have anything to say, any contributions to make, do. You can do so on the Instagram account at Much Ado About Nothing Pod. The TikTok, which is the same handle, Much Ado About Nothing Pod, is also available, but I'm not gonna lie, it's looking really dry on the TikTok because I'm not really a TikTok girly, so I'm not quite sure where to go with it creative wise. But if you want to hop on there, who knows? Do feel free. And yeah, thank you again for joining me. Take care. See you next week.